Hi, welcome to another episode of Anatomy with Abby. I'm Abby and I'm here with my skinny friend, Max Illa. And today we're going to identify all the bones in the vertebral column. So let's get started. Let's turn our friend around here so we can get a little bit closer look at the spinal column. And let's remove its do-rag. So from start to finish we have the cervicals that start all the way at the base of the head. It comes to the thoracic, to the lumbar, the sacrum, and the coccyx. But let's take a minute to look a little more closely at all those parts. Each section serves a little bit different function in terms of movement and structure. If you look more closely at our neck bones, those are the cervicals. It starts with the letter C, cervical. And those are denoted by C1 through C7. There are 7 of them. The top two, at the very top, are known as the atlas and the axis. Think of Atlas Shrugged. That's an easy way to remember, like the weight of the world is sitting on your neck. The atlas and the axis provide the ability to rotate the neck bones so we can turn our head. That's known as axial rotation, and those serve that special function. Excuse me. C3 through C7, those are going to provide the rest of the movement, our extension of the neck, our flexion of the neck when we change the pillowcase, and our lateral flexion when we're trying to make up our mind. Okay, and so it's a very flexible part of the spine, very movable part. You do have to pay attention to C7. You'll notice the boniest one sticking out the furthest here in the entire spine. Actually, it sticks out the furthest. And it's special to note this particular vertebrae because there's a network of nerves that run through it. And we want to be cautious in yoga, for example, if we're putting pressure on that part of the neck in a shoulder stand or a bridge posture. You'll want a good certified instructor who knows how to take care of that area so that you can cushion and be safe. So those are the cervicals. Let's move on to what my son likes to refer to as thoracic park. It's an easy way to remember it. Thoracic spine, there are 12 vertebrae in the thoracic spine. An easy way to remember that is to know that there are 12 sets of ribs that attach to the thoracic spine. So there are 12 vertebrae, T1 through T12. This area of the spine provides a lot of protection in addition to the ribs. It works together with the ribs to protect the internal organs. And it's not quite as flexible, in fact, not nearly as flexible as the cervicals or the lower spine. And so its primary movement is going to be rotation. In yoga specifically, when you are doing a spinal twist, it should be happening in your thoracic spine. The lumbar rotates a little, but not quite as much as the thoracic. So you'll have axial rotation through the thoracic spine, not so much of the flexion or the extension, very minimal movement there. Let's move on to the lower portion of the spine. You'll notice that the vertebrae here in the lumbar are big and thick and much larger than the rest of the vertebrae. This is because this is a big stabilizing portion of our body. It provides a lot of coordination of movement between the upper body and the lower body. And these are known as L1 through L5. There are 5 of them. And you'll notice it starts pretty far up the back, almost to the middle back. And when you see a beautiful back bend in yoga, it's because someone has a flexible, very open lumbar spine. It isn't really the thoracic that's providing that back bend, even though it kind of looks like it. So you'll see L1 starts really far up here in the middle of the back. So when someone goes to back bend, remember we ask them to inhale, lift the heart center, and then keeping the core stabilized. Then they start to move into that spinal extension. Well, that extension, again, is happening in the lumbar spine. So right below the lumbar, we have the sacrum. You can see it a little better if I turn it this direction. That triangular shaped bone. When we're born, it starts out as 5 bones, and it takes several years, in fact, a lot of our lifetime, for those bones to eventually fuse together. About after the age of 30, it's just one bone, but we refer to it as S1 through S5. And finally, the very last portion of our vertebral column is the coccyx, a very small, what's also known as the tailbone. It's almost insignificant unless you ever fall or injure your tailbone, and then suddenly that tiny little bone feels very significant to you if you've ever had that experience. So let's review really quickly. If you've been taking notes, remember that the vertebral column is sectioned into the following parts. The cervicals, which are C1 through C7, thoracic park, which is T1 through T12, the lumbar spine, L1 through L5, the sacral spine, S1 through S5, and finally the coccyx. That's all we're going to talk about in this episode, but stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.
Bye.